Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I'm Michali of Michali's Studio, and you are in the studio with me today. And in today's video, we are going to cover rendering final details for our fashion faces. That's going to include details such as the hair ties, the jewelry, and of course my favorite, the makeup, whether it's the eyeliner, the blush, the smoky eye, and how I outline everything using Copic Multiliner. In previous videos, I showed you how to render the skin tone, and which are my top 5 Copic sketch markers for skin tone, which are my top Copic sketch markers for hair and for lip color. So check those videos out as well. I will link them to this video. So let's dive into my methods and techniques for rendering the details for these fashion faces. Typically, I will use Copic Multiliners to outline all the details of my illustrations. So whether it's black or brown, and I use a variety of sizes for really fine details, and particularly for my paper dolls that are very small, I use 0.05 both in brown and in black. At times, I will also use 0.03 and 0.1, 0.3 for more like hair detail. So it really depends on what it is that I'm outlining, but the smaller the detail, the finer pen. I also incorporate Prismacolor pencils for rendering the final details for faces. So if it's the blush, it's any highlights. If I'm doing kind of eye makeup, then I think the softness of the Prismacolor pencils works really well and lends itself to that makeup effect. If there's jewelry of any kind, I will typically use metallic pens. This is the brand I like and use the most. I have it in silver, copper, and gold. Also, if I've got details like clips, pins, hair ties, and the like, I may use these fine liner pens that have a really nice fine tip, and I've got the set that comes in a beautiful array of colors, so I can get in and do those small details and get the effect that I'm looking for. So those are predominantly the tools or the pens that I use. So I'll show you now on each one of these looks, what do I do to finish up and get those final details in. So one of my favorite things to do when I'm rendering my fashion faces and my paper dolls is sort of like the makeup, and I love to do the blush. As you can see, PC939, which is peach, is a beloved pencil of mine and I use a lot. I think it just creates a really beautiful, natural blush effect. It's not like heavy makeup. It blends well on some of the lighter skin tones. When it comes to the darker ones, I might go with a pink that is more visible and comes up nicely, and it always depends on what the fashion look is, what is the vibe that I'm going for. Use that, and then I also use PC927, which I think is like a peach cream, and this is just to blend in and smooth out my lines. This works probably best for E30, a little on E31. It just really depends on skin tone, so I'm just blending it in circular motions just to give a light touch of color. Sometimes I'll use the white PC938 if it's for any highlights like I did on her lips. Here it's going to be less visible, so I won't necessarily do that. As I mentioned at the start of this video, I love these fine liner art alternatives for details, and this kind of neon pink I think might be fun for this clip. I may go in and then add some metallic details so that it shows, because it is directly on the black line. So I might take this silver and we'll add some gemstones. I would also potentially use a Prismacolor pencil here too to bring in a little texture, a little color, but there we've added some gemstones on those nice little clips. And because I'm big on outline, I'm going to be using the Copic Multiliner 0.1, and I might just accentuate the lines just a little bit. Very fine detail. For her hair, I want to highlight some of the stuff, add a little bit of detail. So I'm coming in with Multiliner 0.3 because this is larger. Typically when I am working on my paper dolls, because they are so small, I'll probably use on hair 0.03 or 0.05 because it's finer, but here, in order for the line to come up, I have this cute little braid, so I might want to just highlight some of those details with the black, and then got the hair tie that we're going to probably add some color, and I'll probably add in a little white to bring it out a little bit more so we can see those lines. And I'm just following the lines that I already drew in pencil originally This is, of course, a copy that I scanned into Photoshop, cleaned up, and then printed on printer paper for this practice. Usually I will work directly on mixed media paper when I'm rendering my paper dolls. But I'm just following the lines. Just adds a little bit more texture and depth, that dimension, and it's part of my style. So this is totally optional. This is a bonus video for y'all. You are not required to do any of this. It's important to develop your own style and really think about your aesthetic and what you like. And I just love adding these little details. So the braid, I'm just going to add a little bit of white so we can see it. That makes it come out a little bit more. I might add a little bit of white throughout too. Again, we have the lighter bits in the white of the page that I left when we rendered, but this just adds a little bit more texture and detail. For her hair tie, I'm going with another one of these fine liner pens, just adding some color. We're going to put it here, even though we can't quite see it because it's already black, but we're going to add a little bit of the metallic to make that one pop as well. And it's just about little details. I'm outlining scrunchie using 0.01, again, because my details are bigger than I typically do, but otherwise it would probably be 0.05. I've selected black raspberry Prismacolor pencil 1095 to do a little bit eyeshadow detail, just very gently where I've indicated that it's darker. She's got maybe a bit of a smoky eye. And this is really, again, dependent on what the fashion look would have been. These are just fashion faces I was sketching in my fashionary sketchbook. I love drawing faces. It's so fun to get into all these details. I bring back the peach. I like it for blending, to soften it up a little bit. Kind of the way you would when you're doing eye makeup. If you do eye makeup, if you're familiar, soften with a lighter color. So it gives us that nice depth. Back to my Copic Multiliner. This is when I'm going to start, and this is 0.1. And I'm going to start laying in my outlines. I love outlining with black. It makes everything really pop. Brings those details together, even the little sketch lines. Again, this is my style, so it's not, you know, oh, you have to do this or something. It's entirely up to you. You can outline with pencil, you can outline with color pencils, whatever is appropriate for you and your style. I encourage you to explore that. So coming in here and adding that in as well. I think it also just makes the white of the page pop more. It's like we're putting her eyeliner on, which I used to love doing for myself. Don't so much anymore. Now, for the finer details, like the lips, Multiliner down to 0.05. Because I want a finer line going over, getting those lines, you know, adding that texture, that detail. And there you have it. That's kind of how I render a little bit more detail for this fashion face. So for her, because she's got the light blonde, sort of platinum hair, I'm going to be incorporating the brown Copic Multiliner in 0.05 because it's really fine and I don't want it to empower the existing lines. I just want to add a little bit. I will probably still do a little bit of black because, again, that's part of my style. So I'm just adding a little bit of the brown, brings out the blonde even more. And then I'm going to grab the same size in the black. So I just think it's really pretty and it makes everything pop. And it just gives that final sort of outline look. For her eyeshadow color, I'm going with this Clay Rose PC 1017. Just a little softness there, not too much because she's got a really dramatic cat eye. So just a little softness there. I'll blend it with light umber, BC 941. Again, kind of going for that natural, little bit of color. Then I grab my Copic Multiliner 0.05. Her brows are kind of more defined with these lines. So I'm going to follow those lines. I'm going to recreate what I sketched. Do that dramatic cat eye for her. Outlining everything that I want to highlight even more for this look. It just makes a pop. You see right away. You can just see more definition. I don't typically do the eye color. I find that it can look kind of weird. So even on this scale, I probably won't. Lips. She's got this fun little pout. We already added the highlight with the white pencil in the previous video when we did lips. So check that out if you haven't, if you're stumbling upon this and you hadn't watched the other ones, and I talk about how I render lips. I most use Copic sketch markers for that. As well as the hair and the skin tone. Now we've got these jewels that we're going to outline after I incorporate. I think I'm going to do them silver. So this is just kind of fun. Slightly set the dots in, and you got it. I'm going to outline it. Now I can't decide if she needs blush. She's got such a dramatic cheekbone, and almost like, do I just kind of do a little bit of softness with the light umber, almost like bronzer or something? And I still may use the peach to blend, but not too much. And I do have and will use the colorless blender. So this is where you can come in and blend your pencils if you need, just like we have in the Copic sketch markers. But I like her dramatic cheek, and I don't necessarily think she needs any blush. All right, so I'm happy with her, and now we can move on to this little cutie. And she's got also a lot of beautiful hair in brown, so we're going to use brown and the black Copic Multiliners to accentuate all those lovely lines. So starting off with brown Copic Multiliner 0.1, since we do have a lot of lines and it's a lot more texture sort of to work with, so I want to have a thicker line because she does have wavy hair. So I'm just going over, incorporating the lines that from the sketch, from the pencil scanned in. Again, I just think this adds detail, dimension. The black, I don't want it to be too pronounced, so I am going to go with the smaller size, the 0.05. Again, what we want to pop is the brown. We don't want the black to overpower. Still focus, but add a little bit more depth to the hair, and as part of my outline style. This is where you can kind of help those little hairs, just like we have, depending on your hair type, of course. That adds a little bit more to her hair. So I think brown and purple can be really nice together. So I'm going to grab this fine liner pen for her hair tie. It's a fun sort of ribbed scrunchie. So I'm just going to lay in that detail, and then come back with the Copic Multiliner in black 0.05, add a little bit more lines to that, and then grab my white Prisma, add a little bit of white too. So we've got those layers. I'm going to do for her a little bit of the blush, circular, kind of delicate. Again, it's just a highlight. I'm not trying to do too much. We have these lovely high cheekbones, blender, so I can smooth it out. And then we're going to come back in with 0.05 for the brows and the eyes. All those little fine lines. She also has defined cat eye. I do like to do a cat eye. Not very good at doing it for myself when I'm actually doing my makeup. But it's fun to draw, that's for sure. So we're gonna give her kind of a clean, neutral eye. We got that detail. Cute little nose. She's got a beauty mark right there. You can see her slightly her ears. And we're going to do her earrings as well. And just have fun with it. This part can be so relaxing. And like I said, you kind of get to decide, right? You're the boss of your drawing. If you want to incorporate these kinds of details. Or not, you know, all up to you. I might go back in with 0.1. Just make this line a little darker so it's different to the neckline. And now let's do those earrings. When it comes to jewelry, you can recreate it using the Copics. You could use several different grays for the silver to create the highlights. You could, you know, could be colorful. You could use multiliner pens, you know, whatever it is. I like to do the jewelry when I typically include it with metallic. Not always, but a lot of times there's just something fun about adding that little bit of shine and still then outlining it. So it doesn't have to be like perfect. We can add in a little bit of light from the white page. But again, there's multiple ways to do this part of it, and I think this is where you can have a lot of fun. So we'll go back in and just outline so it's nice and finished. Got these little beads. And the important thing is to play, explore, try different things, make it representative of you and what you love. I'm going to add a little bit more white to her lip for this highlight. But otherwise, she's done. For our auburn-haired gal, we'll start off with 0.1 of the brown, because that's a really great way to get the lines of her hair and what's already working with this color. And we can be pretty quick and light with it. We don't want to get necessarily too dark, but again, it's just highlighting those lines and making everything pop, as well as give that hair texture, which I think the Copic multiliners are really great for. Now here, because it is this auburn, I'm going to go with 0.03 to get some black in here, because I don't want it to overpower. Because I want a little bit of darkness, a little bit of that outline, but I don't want to lose too much of the red. So this will give the kind of push I'm looking for, but much more delicately than even 0.05. So it gives me those shadows and it gives me that texture and that depth without overpowering. give her a little bit of blush. Not too much. Again, highlighting those cheekbones in the highlight. Grabbing my blender just to soften it into the Copic. Marker effect. We're going to go back to 0.05. So doing the brows. And those lines. She's got also nice definition around the eyes. Not going to do any eye makeup for her specifically because I kind of want them more natural in the sense that there's no added color for her overall makeup look. Get those cheekbones. Here I had left the white of the page because she's got that pout. So I don't want to lose that. Here I'm going to employ my Copic markers. I'm going to start with C1, where I want to create the metallic effect, but I don't want it to be too flat because it's such a big piece. So I'm going to start with C1 for the lighter, and then add a little bit of C3 for some shadow. Get some white with the Prisma. And then come in and use my 0.03 because this is a fine detail and I don't want it to overpower, but I still want the outline. And it's like this chunky zigzag kind of a necklace. And then I may still come in with my silver and just add it in a few spots to suggest that it's this metal necklace. And there we have her. She is done. Let's go on to the last phase. I'm going to start off with 0.01 and I am just adding some outline to this wavy curly updo, bringing in some more definition to the hair, following those lines to bring in that texture and an overall outline as well. So because it's kind of this somewhat messy bun, here we have these hair pieces that we're gonna push even more with a little bit of white to highlight them, as well as the roots here. And you're always thinking back to the lines you did when you sketched, even if you might not be able to see them as well, because we went with this beautiful black. Tracing, letting the skin peak, bringing in more dimension to this hair. This is where you can have a little bit of fun with the white to highlight gently, delicately, kind of. It's up to you how much you want to add. Piece kind of tell you what to do. Now I'll add a little bit, some soft blush, not too much. I like her high cheekbones as they are. And I'll get my blender just to soften it in. Now I'm coming in with my 0.05. Get the brows done. I gave kind of more defined eyelashes, so we're gonna have fun including that as well. I just love how it just makes everything that much more defined. Getting all those details to really pop. And again, pick and choose. You might not like an outline on the lips. You know, it might be too much. You get to decide. I love highlighting the cheekbones. I think that's so fun. I used to do a lot of that with my own makeup. Now that line is too fine for me, so I'm going to grab 0.1 to get more of a definition on the jawline and the throat neck details. Come in here, a little bit of the white to highlight the lips. And there you have it. Well, y'all, thank you so much for joining me in the studio today. I hope you had as much fun as I did adding in those final details and touches to our fashion faces. Be sure to check out the other videos if you haven't had a chance, if you're looking to learn more about how to render skin tone or hair or lips. If you have a favorite from these 5 looks, let me know in the comments. If you have any questions, be sure to post them there. If you want to see more content like this, make sure you like this video and subscribe. I, of course, will see you in my next video, and I appreciate you joining me today in the studio. Bye, y'all.